What's up, everybody? Welcome in to the Philly Sports Power Hour with Bill Colarulo, as always. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Fun weekend, if you're a sports fan, which I assume you are if you're here for the Philly Sports Power Hour. But a fun weekend, a lot of stuff going on. Some Sixers games, some Flyers games. Obviously, the NCAA tournament. We got the Fightin' Phils opening day on Thursday. So a lot of good stuff going on. And the Philadelphia Eagles offseason continues in full swing. So the NFL has their annual league meetings, which started yesterday, and they're going to take us all the way until Wednesday. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the rule changes that look like they're going to get passed. None bigger than probably the kickoff change. So if you're somebody who likes the kickoff, looks like that's probably going to get voted on. So we'll see. We'll talk about it, what they need. But let's get a little roll call. We're live on the JAKIB Sports Network. We're live on Bill Colarulo Philly Sports Talk. We're also live on TikTok here. See my TikTok crew checking in. But let's get a little roll call in the chat from the Power Hour crew. I see Wine Niners Wine in the house nice and early. Number one fan, appreciate you. Appreciate you checking out 97.5 The Fanatic this weekend. Bry Guy in the house. Jim G, flexing and stepping. Bridget Tobin in the house. So Bridget and I were in the building yesterday for the Flyers game. Picked a bad game to go to. Flyers played hard, but when you have no damn backup goalie, we'll talk about it. Frustrating. But Bridget and I had fun. They were giving away the bucket hats yesterday. Pretty good giveaway by the Flyers. So I got my summer hat now for the beach because I got the bald spot up here. So I need the bucket hat to cover up the bald spot from the sun. So I got my bucket hat now. Look like Gilligan, but I don't care. I like it. Chuck Hutton in the house. Jason A-Team, IBH, Will Lloyd. Fanny Eagles fangirl in the house. Joey Perchie. Steve Patton. A lot of people checking in today. And we got a lot of people here on TikTok as well. What's up, Yeshi? What's up, Danger Dubs? So question right out of the gate from Yeshi is, do I think the Eagles are going to sign Justin Simmons? So we talked about this a lot on the show last week. With Yeshi, you must not have been here, but we talked a lot about the Justin Simmons move and what I thought maybe they could do. I'm okay with it. You know, I told you last week that I'm coming around. I didn't want to see the Eagles sign another 30-year-old safety. I wanted to see them go younger. I obviously wanted Antoine Winfield Jr. That didn't happen. He gets franchise tagged, as he should have. Then I wanted Xavier McKinney. He ends up going to Green Bay. So they bring in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, which I think was a good move. I think Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's a good move. But if you follow me or you follow the show, you know that I don't want them to be done at safety. Because I still think there are question marks when you look at the safety room. You only have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. You have Reed Blankenship, who's also had injuries throughout his career, who's also been up and down throughout his career. And you have Sidney Brown, who we don't know whether or not he's going to even be healthy this season or when he's going to be healthy this season. So Justin Simmons, you look at his numbers, he's still playing at a high level. He has hit the age of 30, which sometimes can be scary, but he is still playing at a high level. So, yeah, I'm hopeful they maybe can do it. Now, whether or not they will is another story. But the longer he's out there, the longer he's on the market, the more affordable he probably becomes. So we'll see what they do, but I would be good with them signing Justin Simmons. We talked about that a lot yesterday. Nathan yelling on TikTok. Chances the Chiefs three-peat. Well, it's never been done before. But Patrick Mahomes also is doing things we've never seen before, so I'm not ruling anything out with the Chiefs. But let's jump in because there's a lot to talk about today. I want to start with the NFL league meetings. And they're going to vote on a lot of things today, but two big ones. And Bobby, I see you talking about Felix Sandstrom. We'll talk about that because that was frustrating as hell yesterday. I said we were down there in the building. That was frustrating. But let's talk about the NFL league meetings that kick off in Orlando. Nick Sirianni's going to talk. Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie's going to talk. So we'll continue to monitor that if they say anything while we're on the air. Probably be later today, but we'll see if they say anything. But the new kickoff rule. So obviously kickoffs are basically non-existent right now in the NFL. Pretty much non-existent. Last year, they implemented that fair catch where you could catch the ball and still be a touchback. So that was only a one-year thing. So that looks like that's gone. But here's the league meeting rule that's going to be voted on today. Try to follow me because this is complicated. It's similar to the XFL rule, but this is complicated. So the kicker will line up by himself on the 35-yard line. Maybe I could draw this out, but I don't know if you guys will be able to see it if I draw it out. But it looks like the kicker will be lined up on the 35-yard line. Then all 10 players on the kicking team will line up on the receiving team's 40-yard line. So if you're picturing the field, you're going to have the kicker on the 35 by himself. And then you're going to go on the other side of the 50, on the receiving team's other side, you're going to have the 10 of your other players on the 40. See, what they're going to do is they're trying to eliminate the high impact. So they're going to line up 10 of the kicking team on the 40 of the receiving team. And then 7 players on the receiving team will be lined up at the 35. So they're only going to be 5 yards apart. So there's not going to be the running starts where they hit into each other. They're only going to be 5 yards apart. Then you can put 2 other players between the 35 and the 30. So you're going to have, let me see if I'm going to try to draw this out for you so that you could see it. See if I can do this. So there'll be, let me see if you could even see that. Does that even work? Yeah, so you'll have your, let's see, you got your kicker here, then you got the 50-yard line, and then at the 40-yard line, you're going to have 7 players lined up at the 40 on the defense, on the kicking team, and then at the 35, you'll have 7 players. Hold on, I'm confusing you. 10 players from the kicking team on the 40, 7 players from the receiving team on the 35. It's confusing as hell. Then there'll be 2 more players between the 35 and 30, and you can put 2 returners back. But here's where it gets even more confusing. There's going to be a landing zone between the 20 and the goal line. So basically the red zone will be a landing zone. The kicker's got to land the ball in that zone. If they kick a ball short of the landing zone, the receiving team gets it at the 40. Same thing as if they kick the ball out of bounds. If they kick it into the end zone, in the air, the receiving team gets the ball at the 30. If the ball lands in the landing zone and rolls into the end zone, you get the ball at the 20. So basically, there's going to be 3 different touchbacks now. You either get it at the 40, the 30, or the 20, depending on where the ball lands. Confusing. But the whole point of this is they're trying to make more kickoff returns. They're trying to bring back more kickoff returns. So they're punishing the kickoff team if you don't land it in the landing zone. They don't want the kickers to just put it in the end zone every time, like's happening now. You put it in the end zone in the air, receiving team gets the ball at the 30 now. So they want it to land in the landing zone. And here's the other kicker. No pun intended. I told you the kickoff team's going to be lined up at the 40. The receiving team's going to be lined up at the 35. Neither one of those teams can move until the ball lands in the landing zone. So the ball's going to be kicked off. They have to wait. Then the returner will catch the ball. Boom. Now they can start the play. So this should create more kickoffs. Listen, and I see Ray Vega saying they're ruining football on TikTok. I'm okay with this rule, though, because, listen, they basically ruined the kickoff when they allowed the fair catches last year, when they moved the kickoffs up and the kicker could just put it out of the end zone. So at least now they're going to try to bring back some sort of kickoff return. Now, Wine Niners Wine says in the chat on YouTube, well, the onside kick is dead. Well, essentially, if this rule passes, the onside kick will be dead. You will only be allowed to go for an onside kick in the fourth quarter of a game, and you have to declare it before you do it. So no more surprise onside kicks. It wouldn't work. You couldn't do a surprise onside kick because the kicker's the only player on that side of the field at his own 35. Everybody else is on the receiving team side. Does that make any sense? I'm trying to explain it. But here's where the analytics crowd did their research. They said that this is going to add 3 to 5 yards of field position to every receiving team, which should result in more points scored. Because the Philadelphia Eagles, the NFL has experienced a drop in scoring every single season, starting in 2021, then 2022, now 2023. They've seen drops in scoring. And guess what? More scoring equals more money. They want more points. So they think by doing this and bringing the kickoff back, by extending the starting position of teams by 3 to 5 yards, it's also going to result in more scoring. So let me see. I want to get some questions on this. So Bobby Mucherin says, you want more run backs, just move the kickoff back to where it used to be at the 30. So the only problem with that, Bobby, is that the research has shown that these high-speed impacts where you got the kickoff team on their 30 running full speed down the field with the receiving team has resulted in more injuries. So what they've done is they've moved the kickoff team all the way up so there's not going to be that long running start. Boom, you're going to just be 5 yards apart. B. Smith said start using the XFL kickoff rules. This is similar to the XFL. Flexing and stepping doesn't like it. Stop watering the game down. Slagger 57. What's next? A big clown mouth on the crossbar, and if the kickoff goes into it, the kicking team gets the ball on the 50. What else we got? B. Smith, the kicking team doesn't leave until the ball is caught. Yeah, the only problem, though, with that is that I don't think the NFL likes is that you still get the high-speed impact. Even if the kicking team doesn't leave until the ball is caught, you still have guys running 20, 30, 40 yards down the field, boom, with these high-speed collisions. So they're trying to still protect the players. Listen, we'll see how it goes. So I'm okay that they're trying something because I didn't like that the kickoff basically became a ceremonial play. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. Now, there's another rule they're going to change that everything I'm hearing is that this will pass, is they're going to get rid of the hip drop tackles. This one I don't understand. So I actually kind of understand why they're doing the kickoff rule. But this one I don't understand, the hip drop tackle. And the way they're describing a hip drop tackle is if a defender wraps both arms and then unweights himself. So he wraps both arms around the runner, then unweights himself with his legs and essentially just drops to the ground. So all of his weight now drops around the runner's legs and brings him to the ground. I don't know how you're supposed to prevent doing that in the NFL when you're trying to make a tackle. And everything I'm reading, everything I'm hearing is that this is in fact going to pass. And if it does, it will now be a 15-yard penalty. So similar to when a player lowers their helmet or a face mask or a horse collar, a hip drop tackle will result in a 15-yard penalty. I don't know how you enforce this. I don't know what defenders are supposed to do. This game is becoming so difficult to play on the defensive side of the football. So difficult. But that's what the NFL wants. I just told you, they're mad. The NFL is not happy that scoring has gone down each of the last 3 seasons. They want more points. So, yes, they want to protect the players, quote unquote, but what they really want is more points. So this kickoff rule should result in better field position, which will lead to more points. Eliminating the hip drop tackle should, in theory, make it more difficult to tackle a runner, which should result in more points. So, yes, it protects the players. The research has shown it's 25 times more likely for a player to be injured when a hip drop tackle is utilized. But I think at the end of the day, it's all about points. It's all about money. NFL can say all they want that it's about protecting the players. We know what really moves the needle for this team, or for this league, I should say. So we'll see. But for both of those rules to pass, 24 out of 32 NFL owners have to vote on it. So I'm looking here. Pam Keith, it's protecting their investment. They don't want to see more high-price paid players getting major injuries. Yeah, Pam makes a good point on TikTok. I mean, that's why they go through extreme lengths to protect these quarterbacks. That's why you can't touch the quarterback anymore. You can't go low when they're in the pocket. You can't hit them in the head, even accidentally. They're calling roughing the passer plays constantly. It's because they're going above and beyond to protect the quarterbacks. Because what happens when season-ending injuries happen to quarterbacks, the product is watered down. So this is more evidence of what they're trying to do. Yes, keep their star players healthy. I see John on YouTube. It's football. Injuries are inevitable. I agree with you. Ray Vega, there's going to be a lot of fines. Probably. You know, the thing that frustrates me is I understand taking the head out of the game. You know, you don't want these head shots, but there's nothing more frustrating than when a defensive end comes in after the quarterback to get a sack, doesn't hit him in the head, doesn't hit him low, just with a real hard hit, and they throw the flag. Or you see a receiver going over the middle. Safety lights him up, doesn't hit him in the head, just lights him up, and they throw the flag. That I don't like. That makes it extremely difficult on these defenders. Pam Keith, football is not a sport at this level. It's an entertainment business. Caleb Burke, it's like the WWE. So, listen, we'll see. We'll see what happens today with the proposed kickoff changes. But while they're in Orlando and the whole league is together, let's talk about the Eagles for a second. Because could the Philadelphia Eagles be trading Haason Reddick this week? Everybody's going to be there. Everyone's going to be talking. And you know, if you were following last week, it was reported by Jeremy Fowler of ESPN that the Philadelphia Eagles and Reddick agreed to push his $1 million roster bonus that was due on March 15th. They pushed it until April 1st. So that would signal that if anything was going to happen, it's probably going to happen this week. Howie Roseman's probably talking to people right now. Probably talking to people right now in Orlando about Reddick. And if you follow me, you know I am completely against trading Haason Reddick. I don't like it at all. We spoke about it at length on Saturday on The Fanatic. I do not like them trading Haason Reddick. And I'm okay with all the other moves so far. I'm okay with all the other moves that Howie Roseman has made. I hope he's not finished. I don't want him to be done. I still think they need help at linebacker and safety. But you look at the defense. Look at the defense for the Philadelphia Eagles. There's a ton of question marks. Linebacker is still a question mark. Safety is still a question mark. As excited as I am about Isaiah Rodgers hopefully coming off the suspension list and Keely Ringo in year 2, cornerback is a question mark. So you have all these question marks on the defensive side of the football. The one position right now that's not a question mark are your edge rushers. But if you trade Haason Reddick, you take the only position on defense that isn't a question mark, and now you put a big question mark on them too. Because as excited as I am about Bryce Huff, we've only seen him play about 47% of the snaps. The guy has never played 3 downs for a majority of the time. Last season was the first season we've seen him play 17 games. And he did it playing less than half the snaps. So if you get rid of Haason Reddick, you are now going into next season with Bryce Huff, who I'm excited about. I think the guy's got all the potential to be a stud, but we've never seen him do it as the main guy. You'd be going in with Nolan Smith, who I'm still excited about, but we've never seen him do it at the NFL level. He only played 200 snaps last year, and it was up and down. Let me make sure that's right. 200 snaps? I got those notes here. Yeah, 204 snaps for Nolan Smith. So he's a question mark. Bryce Huff, question mark. Josh Sweat. As much as I like Josh Sweat, we have seen him go extended periods of time where he just completely disappears. So you look at this edge rusher position, and if you have Reddick on this team, you get Reddick, Sweat, Bryce Huff, Nolan Smith, and Brandon Graham giving you everything he's got for about 20% of the snaps. And then you also have Zach Bond, who I know is a linebacker, but I think is going to play a very similar role to Andrew Van Ginkel, like what Van Ginkel did in Miami under Vic Fangio. I think that's how they're going to utilize Zach Bond coming off the edge. So now you look at this edge rushing position with Reddick on the team, and it is a position of strength. But if you trade Reddick, you've now taken really the only position that I feel good about, edge and D tackle. I'll throw D tackle in there. Losing Cox is a big loss, but I'm excited to see what Carter and Milton Williams and Jordan Davis can do. But why make the edge rusher position a question mark too? And we've seen it firsthand when we get pressure on the quarterback. We have seen what that does for our defense. You go back to 2022, number 1 team in the NFL in sacks. No coincidence, number 1 team in the NFL in passing defense. And then 2023, you drop to 19th in sacks, and your pass defense drops to 31st in the league. So this move I don't like. This move I don't understand. Now, I completely get what the Eagles' thought process was here. Reddick wanted a new deal, as he should get. I'm not one of these people who say he's under contract, he should just play. I don't agree with that. The NFL, your average life of your career is a little over 3 years. You get paid when you can get paid. And I'm not going to fault a player for looking at his contract and looking at his deal and saying, hey, I'm underpaid. I want to be paid more. So I don't blame Reddick for wanting more money. He is severely underpaid. And it's all relative. I know there are fans who said he's making $15 million a year. How's he underpaid? I don't make $15 million a year. It's all relative. If you are working in any industry and you look around at your coworkers and you are not being paid fairly in comparison to your coworkers, you're not going to be happy. Whether you're making $15 an hour, whether you're making $150,000 a year, or you're making $15 million a year like Haason Reddick, when you look around, if your coworkers are making a lot more money than you, who haven't produced anywhere near as well as you've produced, I think you should ask for more money. And you look at Haason Reddick. This guy now, in 3 seasons with the Eagles, has never missed a game. He's played all 34 regular season games. He's played all 4 playoff games. He started 38 straight games for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's got 4 straight seasons with double-digit sacks. He wasn't happy last year with his contract. He didn't make noise about it. He was a good soldier. He came in. He played 74% of the defensive snaps, had double-digit sacks again. So you tell me, if you're of the crowd who thinks Haason Reddick should just shut up and play. So he makes $15 million a year. He hasn't missed a game in an Eagles uniform. And then you bring Bryce Huff into your locker room, and Bryce Huff's making $17 million a year. He's making more money than Haason Reddick. Bryce Huff has double-digit sacks 1 season. He's played 17 games 1 season. He hasn't done anything for the Philadelphia Eagles yet. So if you're Haason Reddick, if you're of the belief that he should just shut up and play, he should be completely okay being in the locker room knowing a guy who doesn't have half the resume he does is getting paid more than him, and he should just shut up. I will never agree with that. Because how many times do you see NFL teams cut a player who's under contract? So you can't have it both ways. We can't say to a player, shut up and play, you're under contract, but then NFL teams can turn around and cut players whenever they want to. And I started this conversation saying I still agreed with what the Philadelphia Eagles did here. Reddick wants to be paid a lot of money. So I agree with Reddick that he deserves more money. But where I don't agree with Reddick is if he truly wants more than $25 million a year. So I was okay with what the Eagles did here. They say to Reddick, listen, we agree you need a raise. But what you're asking for is too high. So we're going to let you go out. We're going to let you test the free agent market. And you tell us what a team is willing to pay you on the market. You're not a free agent. So anything we do, we'd have to trade you to that team. But before we even talk to a team about what the compensation in return would be, go find out what they'd be willing to pay you. And if a team is willing to give you the money you want, then we'll start trade negotiations with that team. Well, my understanding is no team yet has been willing to give Reddick what he wants. So I'm okay with what the Eagles did. Let him test the market. But then let him come back and tell you, hey, look, this is what a team's willing to do it. And if I'm the Eagles, whatever another team would be willing to pay Reddick, I would match. I don't think a team's going to give him over $25 million. Is there a team out there that'll probably give him over $20 million? Probably. The contract I compare it to is Danielle Hunter, who was with the Minnesota Vikings. So Hunter is going to turn 30 in October. Reddick is going to turn 30 in September. Well, Hunter just got a 2-year, $24.5 million annual number from the Texans, 24.5. I see Reddick similar to that. Same age, same type of player. So if Reddick would be willing to take 24.5, I think the Eagles should do it. I think it's a no-brainer the Eagles should do it. But we got to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll talk a little more Eagles. I want to jump over. I want to talk some Flyers, some Sixers, and the Fightin' Phils back in action. And then we'll end the show like we always do with a little Today in Sports History. I'm Bill Colarulo. This is the Philly Sports Power Hour. We'll be right back.
Imagine for a moment that you went to work today and when you came home, you were catastrophically injured. Your life and your family's life. That's what happened to union construction worker Mike Little.
I was scared of what the end was going to be, but to be 100% honest with you, I knew I was going to be all right just by talking with Brian. In my heart, I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Call the firm and find out why they say We got this. Call 215-458-2222.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports, and certainly the easiest when you're watching the NBA. And the NBA playoffs are almost here, and you can win money making picks. What are you waiting for? Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code WIN. An Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN. Get ready for the NBA and get ready for the NBA playoffs. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services. The first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back in to the Philly Sports Power Hour. During the break on YouTube, we were still live on TikTok answering some questions. So somebody asked on TikTok if I thought Darius Slay was washed up. And I don't think Slay is washed up. I'm okay going into this season with Slay slotted as one of your starters. It's the other question on the other corner, because JB can't be the answer. James Bradberry can't be the answer. Is it Keely Ringo? You know I have high hopes for Ringo. Is it Isaiah Rodgers if he comes back from the suspension list? You know I have high hopes for him too. But even Slay, who I don't think is washed up yet, we've seen in this league, you just saw it with James Bradberry, it can happen quick. And what I said to TikTok was, what better way to help your secondary? What better way to help your secondary than to have a strong pass rush? So why would you trade Haason Reddick? And you look at all the moves that Howie Roseman has made so far this offseason, and every move he's made signals to me that they're all in on this season, that they're going for it this season. You look around the NFC. Yes, there are good teams, the 49ers, the Lions, the Packers. I'll still put the Cowboys there, but there is no overly dominant team that the Eagles could not get back to the NFC Championship game and maybe to a Super Bowl. So you go all in this season. And how does trading Haason Reddick say we're all in? Because I see people asking, what are they going to get back in return? They're not going to get a lot. They are not going to get a lot. You look at L'Jarius Sneed, one of the best young corners in the league. He just gets traded by the Kansas City Chiefs to the Tennessee Titans for a third-round draft pick, a 2025 third-round draft pick. Do you know why they only got a third-rounder? Because you also have to pay the player. Same thing with Brian Burns. The New York Giants only had to give up a second and a fifth. And Brian Burns is 25 years old. They only had to give him a second and a fifth because you had to pay the player. And you got the same thing with Haason Reddick. The whole reason the Eagles would trade him is because he wants a new deal. He wants to be paid more. So no team is going to give you a lot of draft capital in return for a 30-year-old pass rusher that they also have to give a big money deal to. So I think the Eagles are lucky if they get a third and a fifth. When guys like L'Jarius Sneed are getting a third-round draft pick, the Eagles will be lucky to get a third and a fifth for Haason Reddick. That, to me, is best-case scenario. So that doesn't move the needle for me. I will pay Haason Reddick whatever the amount is the other team would be willing to pay Haason Reddick. So I was okay with the plan here. I was okay that Howie Roseman said, listen, we don't want to argue with you. You think you're worth $25 million, $26 million, whatever it is, go see if another team will give it to you. But once you find out what another team would be willing to pay you, come back and we'll match it. That's how I would have handled it. But it's starting to look more and more like the Philadelphia Eagles aren't going to match it, that they're just looking for a trade partner. And I will not agree with that move. It doesn't help this football team. So that's my position on the whole Reddick thing. And then we also talked about James Bradberry. I see Danger Dubs talking about Bradberry on TikTok. And what I said was, and we've talked about it before on this show, it just doesn't make sense to cut Bradberry. I know we all think he's done. I'm not confident he's going to be able to contribute at all this year. It just doesn't do anything for you to cut him right now. Cap hit skyrockets from $4 million to $15 million. If you wait until after June 1st, cap hit still skyrockets up to $10 million. So just hold on to him. Bring him into camp. See what he's got left. Maybe he surprises you. I wouldn't rely on him this season. I'm not relying on JB to be a starter, but there's no harm in bringing him back. He's not a bad locker room guy. Doesn't hurt the culture at all. So you bring him back and you see what shakes out. Yeah, I agree. Flexen and Steppen says he's cooked. I don't disagree with you on JB, but I just don't see there's really no benefit to not bringing him back. There's no benefit to cutting him right now. You don't save any money. You don't need the roster spot. So you got a lot of corners on this team right now. So bring him in. Let him compete. See what happens. M. Reyes says, a baby blanket would provide better coverage than Bradberry. He was a complete liability. Not disagreeing. I'm just saying there's no benefit to cutting him right now. You lose money if you cut him right now. So hold on to him. Bring him into camp. See what he's got. And if he has absolutely nothing, he can't even be a backup on this team, then you cut him. But there's just no, why cut him now? Doesn't do anything for you. Doesn't help you at all. You actually lose money. Goes up to, you would lose $11 million more if you cut him now. So it doesn't make sense. And I see people, Brita on TikTok saying, hey, can you try out Bradberry at safety? I've heard that before. I don't know. You know, maybe you bring him into camp and you see what he could do at safety. It's just, I don't know if that's that easy of a transition. Some guys have been able to do it successfully, but Bradberry just does look like a liability. I'm not sure I even want to put him at safety right now. But let's switch gears for a second. Let's talk a little Flyers. So a big weekend for the Flyers. As you know, they are in a playoff push. There's only 10 games left in the season right now. They are sitting there at third in the Metro, but they're only 2 points up on the Washington Capitals, and the Capitals have a game in hand. So it is a tight race. So they have a big win on Saturday down at the Wells Fargo Center against the Boston Bruins. Big win. Travis Konechny, 2 more goals. He now has back-to-back seasons with 30 goals. Rookie Tyson Forrester, another goal, second in the NHL in rookie scoring. Just incredible stuff from Forrester. Got a great shot. But then they come out yesterday. And I would have been frustrated about the game if I just watched it on TV, but I'm even more frustrated because it was a nice date night for me and Bridget going to the Flyers game. We were excited. They gave out the bucket hats, which were pretty cool. But one of the things that I had been preaching around the trade deadline was once you lost Carter Hart, and once you were starting Sam Ersson, who's played really well, is you needed a better option at backup goalie. It wasn't Peterson. He was terrible. But I also wasn't excited about Felix Sandstrom. The guy hadn't done anything in his NHL career. He had not been very good in Lehigh with the Phantoms. You can't, when you are in a playoff race, as tight as the Philadelphia Flyers are right now, in a playoff race, you can't lose every damn game you start your backup goalie. And yesterday's game, Felix Sandstrom was terrible in that game. Absolutely terrible in that game. The Flyers outshot the Florida Panthers 33-15. 33-15. And that doesn't always tell the story. You know, maybe the 15 shots the Panthers had were really good opportunities, you know, tough goals to stop. Every goal Sandstrom let in, every single one of them, should have been stopped. Every one. They lose the game 4-1. One was an empty netter. But all three goals that Felix Sandstrom let in should have been stopped. He wasn't screened. The puck wasn't deflected. It wasn't like a 2-on-1 opportunity. It was he had a straight angle at the shooter and couldn't stop the damn puck. And it's a shame because the Philadelphia Flyers played their asses off yesterday. They dominated the Florida Panthers. And not only was Felix Sandstrom terrible for the Flyers, a former Flyers goaltender, Anthony Stolarz, who's the backup for the Panthers behind another Florida Panthers goalie, that's a former Flyer, stood on his head last night. Stolarz was unbelievable last night, which made it even more frustrating. But when you're in a playoff race like this, when every point matters, you can't lose every damn game that your backup starts. Just terrible. So they're in this race now with the Capitals. Both teams are going to be in action Tuesday night. By the way, I just scratched my back, not my ass. Looks like on camera I'm scratching my ass. It's my lower back. Anyway, so they're back in action Tuesday night, as are the Capitals. So every game matters. Let's watch these games because it's exciting. I'll tell you, the building yesterday, it's amazing that we got Flyers hockey back. I mean, they talk about a new era of orange. It's back. Sold out crowd yesterday. The place was bumping. People were fired up. It is so exciting that we have Flyers hockey back the way it should be in Philly. All right, talk about the Sixers. Because in addition to the Flyers being in a playoff chase, the Sixers are holding on to a playoff spot. And they get a big win. Not one I was expecting. So we knew they had a tough West Coast trip, the Sixers. We were worried they were going to go 0-4. They started 0-2, but a big win yesterday against the LA Clippers and James Harden. 121-107 in LA. Maxey drops 24. Tobias Harris, if he could just stay aggressive, I don't know why he just disappears sometimes. Good game from Tobias, 24 points. But the big story from yesterday's Sixers game, Cam Payne coming off the bench with a season-high 23 points yesterday. No Kyle Lowry, it was a rest day. Nico Batum got no action. So Cam Payne led the bench, 23 points, season-high, and the Sixers win a really big game in LA. So right now, you know the goal here is to get into that top six, finish in the top six. We don't want to see the Sixers in the play-in tournament because we're holding out hope that Joel's coming back. And if you've been listening, apparently Joel's working out every day. Apparently he's been on the court. He's ramping up. So I played a clip this weekend on the Fanatic of Ramona Shelburne. I think she's with NBA.com. Is she with NBA or ESPN? Let me give her credit because it was a good quote from her. Ramona Shelburne is with, she's an NBA insider for ESPN. So she had a great line, and it's a former Rick Pitino line, where Larry Bird's not walking through that door. Well, what Ramona Shelburne said was, well, Joel Embiid is. So if Joel Embiid does in fact come back, this team does have a shot. I know I'm out on the Sixers too. I've been down on them. I know. But you look at something that Nick Nurse also said, and I played this clip on The Fanatic. I think he was on with Bob Cooney. He talked about when he won the NBA championship with the Toronto Raptors in 2019. His starting five had only played 56 minutes together before the playoffs. 56 minutes. So that's the only thing I'm holding out hope on is if Embiid can come back, and we haven't seen him play with Lowry, and we haven't seen him play with Buddy Hield, and we really didn't get a lot of him with Kelly Oubre, that maybe Nick Nurse can get these guys playing. I know. We're over the Sixers. I get it. But what do we have right now? What are we holding on to other than this? This is all I can hold on to. There's only 10 games left in the season. 11 games, excuse me. 11 games. So I'm just holding on to hope that, hey, Embiid can come back. They get them playing well, and maybe they can make a little bit of a run. They're not getting past the Celtics. I agree with that. But so we'll see what shakes out there. Other news today, talking about L.A., Shohei Ohtani is supposed to talk to the media today. Has that happened yet? Probably not, because they're on the West Coast. But Shohei Ohtani, if you're under a rock, you're not following what's going on, this is a big story, not only for Major League Baseball. This is a big story for all of sports. That allegedly his interpreter was making bets. At first, it was reported Ohtani's camp said, yeah, he covered the bets for him, and then they changed their story and said, no, he stole the money from him. But there is a lot going on here. So I'm going to be watching this to see what happens. Major League Baseball has now started an investigation, as they should. So just interesting. You following that? Everybody following that Shohei Ohtani stuff? If you following that in the chat? Because to me, this is just fascinating. And I'm not buying it. I'm just not buying this story. I'm not buying that a guy would not know that $4.5 million was taken from him. And then The Athletic did a story about how the interpreter, Mizuhara, has in his bio, in the Los Angeles Angels media guide, has in his bio that he graduated from the University of California, Riverside in 2007, and that he spent spring training in 2012 working with the Yankees. Well, it's turned out that none of that is true. The University of California has zero record of this guy. So this is developing into an unbelievable story. And the more you start pulling away the layers, there's going to be more and more coming out. So I'm just fascinated by what's going to happen with this whole situation. But something's up. Something is up. And I see Bryda on TikTok saying the interpreter 1,000% took the blame. So we're going to find out. I mean, look, all eyes are on this now. They have to do an investigation. And if it turns out that Ohtani was involved in this, then he needs to be banned. You talk about an absolute disaster for not only the Dodgers, but Major League Baseball. This guy was becoming the face of Major League Baseball, not only here in this country, but worldwide. But something just doesn't add up, man. Something doesn't add up. So we'll keep monitoring that as well. But as we talk about baseball, the Fightin' Phils back in action on Thursday. And one of the big questions that's been going around all offseason, all spring training, was should Johan Rojas start out in AAA or should he be in the major leagues as your starter in center field? Now, I was always of the mindset that I thought his defense was good enough, and he's being described as being a generational talent. Todd Zalecki was on The Fanatic talking about how Johan Rojas is a generational talent when it comes to center field defense. Compared him to Gary Maddox. So you're talking about a guy who is going to be a gold glover in center field. And I understand the reason that people wanted him in AAA baseball was because, oh, he can't hit. If this team is losing baseball games because Johan Rojas isn't hitting, then you got bigger problems. When you got guys like Schwarber, Harper, Turner, Realmuto, Castellanos, and you're losing because Johan Rojas, your 9-hole hitter, isn't hitting, well, then you got bigger problems. So I was all for Rojas starting in the majors, and it looks like he's going to be starting in the majors because news broke yesterday that the Phillies traded Jake Cave to the Colorado Rockies, which opens up the roster spot that Rojas is going to be on the opening day roster. And Slagger just took it right out of my mouth, saying the Jake Cave move clearly shows they want him to get major league at-bats. Exactly. Surprised me a little bit that they made that move, but Jake Cave goes to Colorado, opens the door for both Pache and Rojas to be on the opening day roster. So I know there's a lot of people who want Marsh to start in center, Merrifield in left, Castellanos in right, but I'm okay Marsh in left, Rojas in center, Castellanos in right. You got Whit Merrifield as your super utility guy, can play everywhere, a bat off the bench, Pache, another bat off the bench. So I'm okay with this move. I like this move. So I'm all for having a generational talent as he's being described. I wonder what my producer's a big Phillies guy. Xander, if you're listening, let me know in the chat if you're all for this move or not. If you like that Rojas is going to start in the majors. So I like it. Let's see what you got in the chat. If only his offense is. Gary, finish your comment on TikTok. But what do you think? What's the overwhelming response to this in the chat? Were you happy that it looks as if Rojas is going to be on the opening day roster, or were you of the belief they should have put him in AAA? See, I just don't think if you're trying to get the guy to be a better hitter, I get it. You put him in AAA, he gets more at bats than batting in the 9-hole hitter, but it doesn't help you against major league pitching. I mean, for you to be able to hit major league pitching, you got to go up against major league pitching. So I'm okay. Look, if he hits 200, but he can be that good in the freaking outfield. So Xander, my producer, who I told you is a big Phillies fan, he just checks in. They got enough bats to make up for Rojas if they play like they should. Exactly. Slagger says, I like the defense so much that I'm good. Randoms. He can always develop into being a decent hitter down the road. So I'm good with it. Hold on, I'm getting some news here. Is that true that Quez Watkins just signed with the Steelers? Yeah. Quez Watkins agrees to terms with the Steelers. Thank God. Get him the hell out of here. Good luck, Pittsburgh. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN reports that Quez Watkins has agreed to terms on a contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh. No problems here, man. No problems here. I was so sick and tired of hearing Nick Sirianni talk about what Quez Watkins' speed did for this Eagles offense. I couldn't stand it. In fact, I talked about it this weekend. Let me see if I got it here. I spent some time talking about it. Here we go. I got my notes right here on the Quez Watkins crap. So Quez Watkins, and listen, I'm not really taking a shot at Quez. He outperformed what a 6th-round draft pick is supposed to do, okay? As a 6th-round draft pick, Quez Watkins did a lot more than I would have ever imagined a 6th-round rookie could have done and then grew into over the 4 years. The problem was we weren't using him like that. They were trying to make him a wide receiver 3 that contributed to this offense, and he just didn't. So as a rookie in 2020, he plays six games. He averaged 15 yards a catch. 2021, 17 games, averaged 15 yards a catch. Okay, I saw the potential. They talk about how he takes the lid off of a defense. 15 yards a catch, pretty good. Second year in the league, 43 catches, 647 yards. Okay, I'm willing to give this guy a shot in year 3. You bring in A.J. Brown. You have Devontae Smith. I'm okay with Quez Watkins being your 3rd wide receiver. And you expected his production to drop when you added a guy like A.J. Brown. But what shouldn't happen, and you've probably heard me talk about this before, what should not happen is that his average yards per reception drops. Because if he's truly taking the lid off of a defense, you should not have seen his average yards per catch go from 15 yards to 10.7 in 2022 and then 9.5 in 2023. And how many times did we see him seem to be around mistakes, fumbles, drops, not battling for balls that get intercepted? So I'm all good with Quez Watkins going. Best of luck in Pittsburgh. Best of luck with Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. But thank God. Thank God Quez Watkins is going. Whew. Good stuff. Good way to end the Power Hour. But interestingly, I end every Power Hour with a little Today in Sports History. And yesterday, Bridget and I are driving home from the Flyers game. And she had a lot of fun, enjoyed the hockey game. And she said to me, who's the best hockey player of all time? And of course, without hesitation, Wayne Gretzky. She said, is that like a sure thing, or is that just an opinion? I said, no, it is a sure thing. There has never been a hockey player better than Wayne Gretzky. There never will be a hockey player better than Wayne Gretzky. And then ironically, I wake up today and I'm preparing the show and I go to look at Today in Sports History. And guess what? March 25th, 1982, Wayne Gretzky became the first NHL player ever to score 200 points in a season. And he's the only NHL player to ever score 200 points in a season, and he's done it 4 times. So in 1982, he finished with 212. 1986, 215, which is a record. 1985, he had 208. 1984, he had 205. So no other player in NHL history has ever scored 200 points in a season. Gretzky's done it 4 damn times. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't also recognize Mario Lemieux in 1989 had 199 points. He missed it by 1 point. But Wayne Gretzky was the absolute man. And I know it was a little bit different of an NHL. Things were a little bit more wide open. But Gretzky, there will never be another Wayne Gretzky. So today in sports history, March 25th, 1982, Wayne Gretzky became the first player ever and the only player to ever net 200 points in a season for the NHL. This was the Philly Sports Power Hour. Appreciate everybody being here. We'll be back here tomorrow at 10 o'clock like we are every single day. So make sure you hit that like button, hit that share button. Make sure you're subscribed everywhere. Follow me on all social media. I tell you that all the time so I can keep you updated where I'm going to be. And we're posting daily content everywhere. But appreciate you all being here. And as always, go Birds.